Missladypetal here. Today I'm doing another book review. I've had a few people ask me for some advice on whether it's a really good idea, what sort of books they get. So I've got another couple of books and I've had a really good chance to actually have a good look at them. The first one is Raw Art Journaling by Quinn MacDonald. Now, this particular book I found a little bit quirky. She is basically talking about starting from afresh and having a look for your words in your art journaling. So she talks about things like hidden poetry, which I've done in one of my recent journal pages, and I like the idea of that. So what is hidden poetry? Hidden poetry is when you have a look through your book pages or magazines or whatever sort of printed text you're looking through or using as ephemera at the time, and then having a look and seeing if particular words or phrases jump out at you, and then isolating those words and phrases until they start to form some form of a little printed text or poem. So she goes through some of those. That's probably the most profound thing that I found in that particular book. She spends a lot of time actually talking about overcoming your fears of art journaling and just putting some pen on paper, and not what's raw art journaling. She says a raw art journal is a way to keep track of your life, the journey you experience as you decide what you want to be when you grow up, even if you're physically grown up already. A raw art journal is your work, not something you make to show or give someone. So essentially what she's saying is that your art journal is for you. Now, in a group that I'm in, Krazy Island Family, we share a lot of our art journal pages, and we encourage and nurture new artists and those that are new to art journaling to come and show their pages so that we can encourage them on their journey. And I really like the nurturing atmosphere of this particular group. It is very different from anything else. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing some book reviews. I've had a lot of great reviews on the last video I did on a couple of book reviews. For my mind, when Quinn talks about making art out of your words, she talks about putting your words into your doodles, so writing microscopically around your doodles, and then doodlers, I think I've seen them do that quite a bit, and I admire the patience that they have to be able to do that. It's all about also writing your thoughts down and then possibly painting over parts of it so that it is what you write down and it is private and it won't actually be seen by anybody else, but you know what's there. So it's all about way from making meaning in life, and it's made not found is her thoughts on this. She also says things like, if you have trouble writing, it's really important to think, okay, well, if I can just write down one sentence a day, if I can write down one sentence a day that encapsulates something that affected me or something that's important to me about that sentence or about my day, then I can do that. I can't commit to writing a page a day. I mean, a lot of people get really daunted by their own handwriting. They don't like what it looks like, and they don't think they can write. And my thought is it's really good to write something short and sweet, even if it doesn't mean anything or it's a random thing for you at first. There's nothing that says that that's not relevant to your life. And I encourage people to play with their words a little bit in their art journaling, because art journaling is a form of expression, and there's many groups out there that promote the healing and meditative effects that art journaling have on particular people and how it can help you to work through issues in your life. And this is one way of being able to incorporate that into your art. And I've always found that I have diaries or written art journals in dribs and drabs. So, you know, that I have probably 6 diaries that I've started over the years, and those diaries all have periods of writing in them where I felt the need to write a lot, and then nothing. And I like the idea that you can just write something small, or find a saying that's meaningful, or find some book poetry that's meaningful to you, and then incorporate that into your art in some way. Even if it's printed text already that you're cutting and pasting into your art. And then even if you paint over it, it's all about language. And language is very important in art. Art is visual, but language is what sets us apart from the animal world and what gives our lives meaning. Our lives don't have meaning without language and words. And those things are really important to then incorporate into your journaling. So I encourage you to think about your words and your thoughts when you're journaling. It's great to slap paint on a page, but once you've slapped your paint on the page, maybe that's covering up some words. Maybe it's covering up an altered book that had some significance. Who knows? It's just something to think about to enhance the way that you do your art journaling. The second one is The Art of Whimsical Lettering by Joanne Sharp. Brilliant book. I got this book because it was highly recommended to me by one of my YouTube viewers, and she said that she'd had it for years and it helped her with her lettering and writing. So I thought, well, I'll give that a go, because I have a background in calligraphy and illumination, and I did that in my teens. When I was in high school, I loved painted panels. So I really played around with calligraphy and illumination through those periods and right through all my 20s. And I've always incorporated that when I was scrapbooking, and now I incorporate the particular styles of writing and those chisel nips and nibs from calligraphy pens in my art journaling now, and I use them with great effect a lot, and I'm really happy with the way that I've been able to translate those skills into my art journals, and oftentimes even into my fine art that I do. I have a painting at the moment where I've written a lot of words of significance, but I've done them in graffiti writing on tissue paper, and they are hidden behind the majority of the painting, but you know they're there, and they represent a lot of the basic undertones and themes and emotions that that whole painting represents and is about. And I have no doubt by the time I finish it that everyone will absolutely know roughly what's there without even having to read the words, because the words are, quite frankly, reasonably intelligible. You would really have to work hard to figure out what they were, because I'm really good at making messy graffiti writing. So it's because I don't really want them written. I want people to actually feel the emotion in the painting rather than read the words in the painting, although it's fun to look. So the thing that Joanne Sharp talks about is the same sorts of kind of ideas that Quinn MacDonald does, but she talks about different kinds of fonts, creating your own, really decorating your writing, so making more of a feature of any writing that you may be doing, and then doing things like creating block texts on a page where the writing is all blocked out and you can read it, but it's all segmented. I love the thought that she plays with all different pens, brushes, colours, mediums, sizes of lettering. She works at doing all different types of letters really kind of close together and all juxtaposed together, and I love the effects that she makes with a page and how you can even make a background out of your scribblings. Now, one of the things that I've learned and some of the cool backgrounds that I do is you can sit there and rotate your page, so you can go from one corner to the other and keep spiraling it in and in and in until you've covered the whole page. Then if you want to write some more, you can actually get another pen and write in the opposite direction across, and then go up and down in another pen again, and then you've got this really crazy kind of background that you can, depending on the type of pens you've used, maybe smudge a bit with mediums that you've got, gesso paints, inks, who knows, but all your writing's there. And it could be scripture. It could be a poem that you love. It could be thoughts from a diary. It could be you were really upset with someone that day and you felt that you couldn't verbalize it and you wrote it all down, got it out of your system, and then did a journal page about it. I think it's really interesting that a lot of the artists that I know within the art journaling community, they talk about the fact that they can outwork their negative emotions within their art journaling, but the finished piece does not necessarily look negative or dark. Or it might not even reflect what the original writing was about, because in the process of writing it all down, in the process of then creating something, their whole thought patterns changed and their moods changed and their emotions changed. And so by the time they're finished, they've got something that looks really sweet and lovely and gorgeous. But unless you would ask that artist or they told you, you wouldn't understand all the hard work and the bad emotions and the blood, sweat and tears sometimes that's sitting underneath that prettiness. And I think that gives a particularly personal and interesting depth to whatever you're doing. And I've got quite a few art journal pages where I talk about all the things that inspired me about the page, that eat the memories. I know in my scrapbooking I used to journal a bit because I always wanted to not just put a photo on the page with a pretty saying. I wanted to actually jog someone's memory that might be in the next generation that looks at that page after I'm dead and that story's lost. Similarly, in my art journals, I like the thought that someone will find interest in the art and they might even have the interest to look further past some of the smudginess and have a look at a little bit of the emotion that went into creating that piece of art or the story behind the page. Because our art journals are an expression of our lives. And the main thing that I wanted to share with you all today was that whatever way that you want to art journal, whatever form you do, whether you're like an ex-scrapper and you use a lot of your collage elements and stamps, or whether you're a painter, or whether, no matter what you do, or even a sculptor that sits there and thinks, I'd like to put something on paper, or someone that does anything really, then you decide to then start documenting your life through an art journal. Sometimes art journaling is learning all about techniques. I learn about techniques a lot in my first 12 months of art journaling. But sometimes it's about documenting our lives, particularly when we think about things like weekly prompts. So I'm a teacher on journaling Krazy Island style, and we've put a lot of thought into the prompts that we have each week and how we interpret them. And each of us will do something very, very different. And sometimes we think of things that are the same, and then we have to go way outside of our comfort zones and then think about it from a different point of view. And often I like to write some notes on what I'm thinking and feeling before I start my page and I plan it, particularly when I'm going to share that with you viewers. And so I often think there are some pages that I have that are just like an explosion of emotion on the page, or they're not even that, it's thoughtless, and it's just contemplative and meditative, and I'm thinking about just creating something pretty, and then later on I'll add something to it. Who knows? I really don't know, sometimes what I'm doing, and then other times I have this really clear picture in my head that I do know what I'm doing and that it's all okay. And I'm really happy with the way that all works out. And so today there's just those two books and some of my thoughts about the way to approach journaling. I think weekly prompts are great. We have our free prompts on Krazy Island Family, and they get released on there at the time that the subscribers get their videos on those prompts. They get released a couple of days earlier than what I will release them on my channel and what the other teachers do. And I honestly think that if you want to find a place that is very encouraging and nurturing of any kind of journaling or art style, or none at all, to create something where you feel like you've got nothing, then that's a great place to be. and there aren't many places like it. I know we have members in Crazy Island Family that have come into our family after having been heavily criticised within other artistic groups. And I can tell you now, we are not about criticising. We're about critique and we're about encouragement, because honestly, you do not need to feel small to learn something new. You can stay big and confident and happy to learn something new. And that's the way I teach, and that's the way I love to see our other teachers on Crazy Island Family teach. So, learn something new today. It keeps you young. Ciao for now.